everyone. My name is Jen Finnigan, and I was nominated and was one of the recipients of the Advent Conspiracy last year. Kim Carpenter nominated me, and I was blessed enough to receive a car out of all of it. So about 12 years ago, my family moved here to Allen, and my oldest son was attending another preschool. And as I would drive by Grace every day to drop him off, I felt this kind of overwhelming want to stop into Grace and check out this church. And Gym Express registration started, and I checked it out and signed him up. So we knew our kids were going to start attending gym, and because of that, I knew that I wanted to know about this church that was hosting the preschool. Wanted to check it out. So we did, and fell in love with it, knew this was going to be our church home, and we attended here for I think about 5 years and loved every minute of it. And then you kind of fast forward to about 5 years ago from now, and my husband lost his job. So he was out of work. It was, a surprise, but we thought, God's got this, of course, right? It's going to be fine. And he spent a couple of years looking for a job. There were times when we thought we were going to be moving out of state. There was times that we thought he was going to start his own business, and kind of went on this roller coaster. And a couple years into that, we realized things were not moving as quickly as we needed them to. So I needed to look for work. And I was absolutely blessed enough that Diana allowed me to come work at gym and teach in the twos class, which I loved. So I got to spend time where my kids had attended preschool, and I'd gotten to know a lot of these women that worked there, and now I got to work with them and be a part of that group. So I worked there for a couple of years, and it was awesome. It was a place that I enjoyed being. I got to teach little kids about the Lord, which was fantastic, but it was also a place that I felt really safe. I could come and kind of escape things that were going on in the rest of my life. So my husband was out of work for several years. He had always had an issue with alcohol, and it was something that we just kind of dealt with and knew about. But I would always say, oh, it's very functional, he's fine, it's not a big deal. But those years being out of work really took a huge toll, and that problem became a bigger and bigger issue in our life, and to a point of addiction. Nothing huge ever happened in our life, but it just became unmanageable. And here's where God really starts to show up. As we were out of work for so long, we never went hungry. We never had to tell our kids, no, we don't have food today, because we always had someone showing up with groceries. But while I was working here at gym, Diana would check in with me all the time, and how's the job hunt going, what's going on? And I had felt like I needed to tell her the truth of what was going on. And finally, when she walked in one day, I just knew that was the day I needed to tell her everything going on in my personal life, what was happening at home. And I lost it. I just broke down in tears and told her the truth and how hopeless I was feeling. And she was amazing. She was there with me and prayed with me and supported me as we kind of started a new, really honest adventure. So I kind of felt a little more empowered with that. I knew that, okay, telling the truth is okay. Not everything has to be roses. Every time somebody asked me how I was doing, I didn't have to put on a giant smile and say it was okay when it wasn't. But it was okay to be honest and tell someone, this is what's going on in my life. A few months after that, was taking care of things in the room, and the teacher that I was teaching with asked me some questions. How's the job hunt going? And I looked at her and I said, it's not going well. Told her the story. And she asked me a really brave question. She looked at me and she said, has he ever hurt you? And I said, oh no, that's never happened. And I'll tell you, this is God's timing 100%. She asked me that question. That afternoon I went home, and we ended up in a fight, kind of as we do sometimes, and it got loud. And I don't want to make this sound worse than it was. It wasn't huge. He did end up kind of grabbing hold of my wrist and wanted me to leave the room with him to talk. And I ended up with just some bruising on my arm, and I knew I would normally have passed that off. I would have said, that's not a big deal. And I was able to say, no, I need to stand up for the health of myself, for the health of my children emotionally, we knew that the situation had gotten to a point where we needed to make a change. So we started thinking about separation and ultimately ending up in a divorce. And that was a really difficult thing to walk through. But God showed up, and He always does, and He always has. He again was providing for me as we lost our home and needed to get it cleaned up enough to sell. Kim Carpenter came around and got her life group together to help me clean up the yard and trim trees and get it ready to sell. And then after that, the Advent conspiracy came up. So that's my long story to say that Kim knew what was going on, knew my situation, knew that we were pretty desperate, that we were, out of money. It was me, a single mom, separated at the time, on my way to a divorce with 4 kids and getting ready to live in my parents' home. So she nominated me as a recipient for the Advent conspiracy. She knew my car, the van that I had been driving. The air conditioner hadn't worked. It was showing some odd lights now and then. Like, we knew that it was not long for the world. Anyway, she had nominated me, and the story goes that that she sent that in to Joel, and they had been discussing it and deciding what to do. And I think maybe 24 hours later, he got an email from another family saying they had a car and they weren't sure what to do with it, and they wanted to donate it to the church. And he knew exactly what to do with it. It was just crazy. God's timing is so amazing. They received that information, that nomination, and it's evidence to me every day, several times a day, that I get into the car, how much God knows what we need long before we do. So God gave me a car, and He started that process 10 years ago, and it's amazing. So I know we're doing Advent Conspiracy again, and if you feel at all led to give, I encourage you to do so, because you just don't know who it's going to affect, who it is that has a need that they're not ready to talk about yet. If you just have the tiniest prick of need in your heart to give something, I encourage you to do it. I also would encourage you that if you know someone going through something that hasn't talked a lot about it, that nomination process can be done really quietly, and you can submit the needs that you know about to the pastors, and they handle it very discreetly. And so I encourage you to nominate somebody that you know, because there's people all around us going through things, and you don't know it until God shows up in a really huge way. So yeah, that's my story of Advent Conspiracy, and I hope that everybody who can contributes, and if that is just monetarily, or if you have something you know that you can give, or if you know of somebody that could really use some support and could use a physical way for God to show up in their life.